Okay, that should now work. Okay. We good? I think we're good. Sweet. We're working. Excelente. How's it going, everybody? Oh, dear. Sorry about that. Yeah, I really should have probably tested my audio before I went live on that one. Turns out I didn't have the right microphone plugged in. But hopefully that should now work. So yeah. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I was going to use my podcast microphone, but yeah, basically, it doesn't seem to be USB plugged in properly, so I'm just going to leave it at that for the time being. But yeah, the webcam one seems to be perfectly fine. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, I was going to use my podcast microphone, but so yeah, we'll go with that for the time being. Hi everybody. Sorry I'm a bit late, but yeah, we're now up and running. But yeah, hope you guys doing okay. I hope you enjoyed the ASMR headphone footage I had at the start, at the top of the show. But hopefully that'll work out. But yeah, hope you guys doing good. Hope you had a lovely Christmas and whatnot. All spent time with your families and whatnot. I've already seen some guys in the chat. Hi guys, how's it going? Tom, Rezi, Toki, Jason, Jeff. Hi Kenny. Brian's in there. Whew. A lot of guys fired up for this one. You love to see it. You love to see it indeed. So thanks guys on that one. Much appreciated. It's going really, really well back here. Having a nice little Saturday night. So yeah, I just thought I've not done one of these in a while. This is the first time I'm doing it not off Google Hangouts, because Google Hangouts is now dead, apparently. So it's a bit of a weird one, but we'll go with that. But I hope you guys are doing good. And yeah, welcome to my humble abode for the afternoon. And yeah, I'm just chilling out. I'm going to have the live chat on, so if you guys want to ask me anything or just, hang out, I'm sure we'll find some stuff to talk about for the next couple hours. I've also got the football on, funnily enough. Norwich against Tottenham in the Premier League. Norwich were about to go 2-0 up on Tottenham, but Timo Pukki just had a goal ruled out for offside, a complete nonsense VAR reversal. So that's fun, football being a bit shit. But, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'll keep you posted on that one if you're not watching it. And it's on in the background, so that's useful. But yeah, say hi if you've been around already. And let me know how you guys are doing. Also, I'm just going to share this out live on Instagram and whatnot. Hang on. But yeah, so I hope you guys are having a lovely soccer Saturday and whatnot. Obviously had a good Christmas. I mean, if you guys got anything cool. And yeah, I'll run through the comments and see how we get on for the next couple hours and see what the response is like. Just gonna get the tweet going again as well. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okie dokie. This is I guess I'm in the chat. Merry Chrysler. Hi Carlton, nice to see you. You are indeed the wholesome one, Kelly. Church of Dre is now in session. Quite right. Jason's in the chat as well. Tell him how you like the new award format. Well, I really quite liked it on the award show. Jason did a very, very good job of organising the whole thing. And I hope you guys enjoyed it just as much as we did. Very, very much enjoyed that. Let's have a look here. Rao asks, when do you think the Formula One paddock will reflect society in terms of demographic? I like that we're going straight for the hard-hitting questions. I thought that's quite funny. It's going to take a generational shift for that to happen. Like, I've said it before as an observation in this country, and this is me talking as a black Jamaican immigrant in the UK, and the UK has obviously got a huge Formula One following. Black people don't get into motorsport, generally speaking. We have a reputation or a stereotype that we're more athletic compared to our quote-unquote white counterparts, and we get into more of the working class sports, i.e. football, basketball, rugby, school, sports that get that more school support in the school system, because obviously you're not going to have freaking karting in the average school. They can't afford that sort of thing. Motorsport, generally speaking, is an expensive motorsport to get into. It's not a working class sport. You need a lot of money to get into it, and most of the time parents have got to make either big sacrifices or throw a lot of money at karting to have any sort of chance of success, and that money is only going to go up and up as you progress through the tiers. It is, I make no bones about it, it's a rich white man's sport, and it's just not designed for working class people of colour like me, unfortunately. It's just, and that's just how it's going to be. And unless something dramatically changes in this country to facilitate getting more people from a working class background and people of colour into motorsport, and not just motorsport from in the cars, but also behind the cars, like engineering and, mechanics and physics, etc., it's not going to change. There are, I'm sure, more people of colour behind the scenes working computers and obviously on the lower tier levels of what you don't see on TV with F1 teams. But in terms of, drivers, in terms of prominent key figures in the sport, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Is just my humble take on the matter. I love that YouTube might end up demonetizing this video of me when it comes to me talking about race and the state of play in this country, and we're literally, 11 minutes in, 12 minutes in? We're off to a good start, folks. Nothing spicy at all. But that's my general rule of thumb on that. That's my opinion anyway. So, we'll have to wait and see. How was my Christmas? Christmas was nice, Brian. Hope yours was okay too. My Christmas was okay. Good to spend some time with the family. Like, honestly, I've enjoyed it a lot. I mean, it's hard to juggle around the fact that I work a shift-based job, and I worked Christmas Eve, I worked Boxing Day. This is a rare weekend off for me this weekend, so I'm enjoying that very much. I've got 2 days off in the middle of next week as well. It's paid holiday as well, which is quite nice. So, it's nice. You know, I'm enjoying the fact it's a lighter schedule for the most part, and that's always a plus. Um, but we'll see how we go. It's been very nice. I can't complain. It's just nice to be at home for a bit and not have to have my head buried in work. Or the day job anyway, I should say. Carlton saying, so let me get this straight. If your oxygen molecule is offside, you're offside now. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to get into VAR too hard because VAR is just shit, unfortunately. Well, okay, I stand corrected. VAR is not shit. The people who are using it are incompetent. I still can't believe we have no pitch side monitors. I still can't believe the way they're trying to measure offside. And VAR was not brought in to do this. It was designed to get rid of the absolute howler. It was not designed for things like encroachment. It was not designed to pick apart really tight decisions. And the reason why I say that is because, well, look at it this way. The laws of the game have a level of discretion, or a lot of referee discretion on what is or what isn't a foul, what is or what isn't a card, what is or what isn't a penalty. VAR takes that human element away, and only because of how it's been designed, and I don't like that, and I think I'm the biggest defender of VAR, and even I'm starting to look at it and I'm going, well, if the referees are not using it properly, then you are better off not having it in the league. Because if you're not having it in the league and the referees are incompetent and they're not using pitch side monitors, if the guy in the VAR box can overrule the referee on the field, then it's going to cause more problems than I think it's worth. The question you've got to ask yourself as a football fan is this what we've got right now better than what we had before, where we were throwing shade at the ref for getting decisions wrong, with a video replay system that could do nothing about it when you watch it on TV? Is this better? And if it is, or if it isn't, why? I don't hear half of this shit in the rest of continental Europe, though. So I also think that the execution of it in the Premier League has been terrible so far and needs to be looked at very quickly. Otherwise, the outrage over it is only going to get bigger. Timo Pukki was not offside for that goal that was disallowed. That's one of the big problems. You're looking at offsides for all these goals. The laws of the game state if the attacker is level, he's onside. The benefit of the doubt goes to the attacker. And that rule is now dead and buried because VAR will now look at it, and if you're offside by a pixel, which you can't even measure properly because the cameras only record at 50 frames a second, you're now deemed to be offside if your armpit is offside because technically you can score with it. It's not a fair fight, and it's only going to get worse as time goes on, as far as I'm concerned. We insist on having these referees in the league, and the refs in this league are generally terrible, and I think that is a bigger problem than VAR itself. If it was used properly, then if it was used by effective refs, I don't think we'd have an issue, personally. But that's what the Premier League's never going to change the refereeing system in this country. So they're going to look at the new gimmick brought in and pick apart that instead, because it's easier to do that than have hard questions about the state refereeing in the UK. That's my opinion, anyway. Just checking the questions here. Oh, enjoying the Switch, Kelly asking. The Switch is great. I just need more games for it. I have Pokemon Sword, and I've completed like 90% of the game now. I'm in like the final stretch of the post game once you become champion, and I'll be catching Zacian very soon. And I do want to start obviously cracking on the Battle Tower. I do want to start creating my own competitive team, having perfect IVs, breeding Dittos, getting Pokemon that's fit for raid battles, and you know, this building a competitive landscape basically for myself on disc, because I do want to battle competitively. I used to do it back in Gen 4 where it was a lot harder. I mean, Pokemon Sword is brilliant for streamlining that competitive process that you don't get in previous Pokemon games. They've made it easier incrementally as games have gone on. But, you know, this is the easiest game yet to get into. There's still a few things I need to get, like a 6 IV trained Ditto to start breeding properly and things like that. But the game's fantastic. And shout out to my brother. He got me Smash Ultimate for Christmas, which should be fun. Looking forward to playing that as well. There's still 2 or 3 more games I really want to get. Well, obviously, dropping £50 a game is an expensive habit that I haven't really got the money for right now. Maybe February, March, etc. I'll properly get into games like Breath of the Wild and obviously Super Mario Odyssey. And I do want Mario Kart as well because I need a good racing game. I want to get Football Manager as well and keep talking and nobody explodes. But more on that soon. If you want to see my friend, if anyone's got a Switch and wants to add my friend code, it's on my Instagram profile at Harrison101. Harrison101 is my Instagram page. I did put a post there with all my details on there, my friend code, and all the social media that's on there. My camera will pick it up from here. I think the glare's a bit too strong, but that might help. It's getting there, but you'll see what I mean. Yeah. Hopefully that'll help in the long run. Just checking the chat real quick. With F1 being more available, example, social media, YouTube, do you think that will introduce F1 to a broader audience? Yeah, to a degree. Look, F1 has genuinely done an excellent job with its social media in the last 3 or 4 years, which is amazing given that it was fucking terrible until 2015. It was awful. We didn't have hashtags at races until 2015, and that goes to show you just how behind the curve Formula One was. But YouTube, for example, has done a genuinely excellent job this year with content, getting chats with interviews. Oh, there you go. I'm back. Sorry about that. I think my internet just hiccuped for a second there. Sorry about that. What I was going to say was, what's most likely going to get people back into F1 is the sport being on free-to-air television. Paywall TV will slowly kill this sport if it's left unchecked. I'm not automatically one of those people that will say that Sky is terrible. I mean, that's the market. People wanted to pay premium money for premium TV channels. There will always be a market for that. There will always be a market for cable. I mean, I think Amazon and the internet and internet streaming in general is going to be the future, and the future is now. But sticking Formula One behind a £30 a month paywall is going to kill it in this country. There is no doubt about that. You need a free-to-air outlet, otherwise the sport will die. There is no doubt in my mind about that. Let's have a quick look at the chat again. Sorry about the disconnection there, guys. Toki, I'm not a big expert on the technical side of Ferrari's leaked pictures about their front wings and whatnot. I'm the wrong guy to ask, unfortunately. Bear with me on that one. Let's have a look here. VAR in Poland. Absolutely favourite sport is football. Who asked me that? Mr. Random Guy. Have a good one, Jason. Thanks for watching, mate. If and only if, as I don't think he will, if Hamilton goes to Ferrari after his current contract is up, who takes his seat at Mercedes? I personally think it will either be Russell, Ocon, or Sainz. I think it will be George Russell. I think Ocon will jump. I think Russell will jump the queue. If they really wanted Esteban Ocon in a Mercedes Formula One seat, they would have done it by now. And the thing is, I'm not sure Ocon is as good as Mercedes want him or need him to be. He struggled up against Sergio Perez the 2 years they were together at Racing Point. And if you're not beating Checo, who is the best midfielder in Formula One and has been for the last few years, how are you going to go in there and basically wave a candle to Lewis Hamilton? I don't know whether Mercedes in general just want a 1-2 driver combination because it saves them the drama of another potential Nico Rosberg, but maybe that's just it. Maybe they want to avoid that scenario. Is Valtteri Bottas good enough to lead a team if Hamilton goes? That's going to be another question in its own right, because Bottas is good, he's not spectacular. So that's another question we're going to have to ask ourselves down the road. Mercs are going to be very interesting. I mean, the 2020 silly season is probably the most exciting thing that F1 has got going for it right now. Who could end up where? And that could be interesting. If Mercs go in-house, I think they would go Russell as an unknown quantity over Esteban Ocon. We'll see. Either that, or it's like either that, or they go outfield like Miles is suggesting in the chat and saying they may make an all-in play for someone like Max Verstappen, or if they can talk Sebastian Vettel out of leaving Ferrari, who knows? You know, look, when you're the best F1 team in the field, you can basically get whoever you want to get. If you're offering them a Mercedes seat, the best seat in Formula One, the number one seat at Mercedes, you can get whoever you want in theory if you try hard enough. It depends on how Mercs want to play it at the end of the day. Let's have a look here. Miles, I think, asked me a question about the Premier League. With Premier League on Prime, do you think the future of the Premier League could be a League Pass sort of thing? Well, they already have one in America. The Premier League, I'm 99% sure, already has a League Pass in the United States because the US get the 3 p.m. games. We obviously, by letter of the law in the UK, don't get them on live TV. We have to watch it on Soccer Saturday or via totally legal outside streaming sources. But I'm pretty sure America already has one, and I'm sure that is like the perfect test bed to see if something like that is feasible. The question is that would Amazon throw enough money at it to wrestle it out from underneath Sky? Because Sky have already proven that they're willing to pay $4+ billion for the rights. I think that was the price the last time the rights got renewed. It was something like £4.5 billion. And there's already talk that Sky and BT might join forces to try and avoid that from happening. Because if anyone can throw enough money at it to make Sky go away, it's Amazon. For obvious reasons. And they're already dipping their toes in the water with live sport. That's exactly why they've had these 20 Premier League live games on their network this season. You get a 30-day free trial of Amazon Prime. You get the Amazon Prime shopping in for Christmas, which I did. Guilty as charged. And I'm an Amazon Prime member as it is, so I already had it. But you get the point. They wanted people to sign up for the 30 days so they could get all their Christmas shopping in on one-day delivery and then get 20 Premier League games off the top for free alongside it. And they've already got the women's WTA tennis, and they had the US Open tennis earlier this year. They're dipping their toes in the water, and they're only going to do more if it continues to be successful. Apparently, they paid about 100 million quid for those 20 games. It's a tester. They're going to see where the market goes and if it's feasible. It's an enormous financial gamble, but if Amazon could pull it off, it's the Premier League. It's the jewel in the crown for British sport in this country. It could potentially be massive. Thanks, Rezi. Hope you enjoyed the show, mate. Take care. The replay will be up anyway. Merry Christmas, Charles. Thanks for that, mate. Debate about... Well, to be fair, Turkey made the good point about Ocon earlier. Ocon isn't part of the Merc stable anymore. That's a very good point. They weren't giving Ocon guarantee. I mean, if you're Esteban, I pity him for being hopelessly naive to thinking that Merckx would just give him a seat over Valtteri. They were never going to do that. Far too high a risk when Ferrari were at their peak in terms of competition. Like, Ferrari were closer 2 years ago to challenging Merckx than they are right now. But Miles is right. You want as sure a thing as possible, and Verstappen is that. And if you're Verstappen, you're going into year 5 of you at Red Bull, and Red Bull are no closer to winning a title than they were 5 years ago when the hybrid era started. If you're Max Verstappen, I've got to be sitting there thinking, what have I got to do to get a Mercedes seat? But we'll see. He's on loan from Mercedes. Okay, I mean, either way, I don't think Ocon gets that level of privilege personally, but I have to wait and see. What can Cody's do to improve their F1 games? Dedicated servers might help. Maybe not building the game around esports play, but that's never going to happen now because they've now gotten into bed with Formula One regarding that. But there's not an awful lot they can do to make the F1 games much better than what they've got right now. I just think it's a limited racing series with limited marketability because it's a sports game. Sports games are hard to keep people interested in over the course of a full calendar year. Especially Formula One, which is a very limited environment because it's the same 2021 tracks every year. It's largely the same cars. The versatility of career mode and upgrades and teams changing themselves. Yeah, it's a good career mode in theory, even better now they've added Formula 2, which is something that I think they should have had the option for a full Formula 2 season before getting to F1 first, rather than 3 random scenarios based off real life. But honestly, I think the F1 games are realistically about as good as they can make them. I mean, you're talking about subjective changes now, like the handling model, or, for example, how much content's on the disc, what can you do in terms of alternative modes of play. It's hard. It's hard to add variety to an F1 game over the course of a year-long cycle, and they're not the only sports franchise that struggles with this. Formula One struggles with it. The NBA 2K series has really hit the wall on this in the last couple of years, especially given their insistence on microtransactions. So it's hard on that one. It's about as good as it's realistic. I think it's about as good as realistically it's going to get. The question is, are people going to still keep spending £50 a year for a new game? That's your decision. I bought F1 2019 and I put it down after about 3 weeks. And the last 2 or 3 years, I got lucky that I had Christina McFairhome from Codemasters, hold my hands up. She gave me 3 copies of the game because she was a mate and I had a vague YouTube presence at the time. So I got lucky in that sense, and that was a level of privilege that most people wouldn't normally get. I didn't have to have the decision whether I wanted to spend £50 a year on it. I had that decision made for me. I might have jumped off the wagon sooner if it wasn't for that. So, I can only drop names in there now because Christina doesn't work for Cody's anymore. She's now at Rare, and she's a gem, one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. So I have to wait and see, but it's a hard sell. It is a hard sell. Let's have a look here in the chat. Top 10 MotoGP riders of the decade, says Viandra. Well, number 1 is kind of obvious. Number 2 is pretty obvious, actually, as well, now I think about it. Stay tuned. Next couple of weeks, I'll probably have a written piece out on this, because I'm doing the Formula 1 version right now. I'm about halfway through. It's a long piece. It's going to be about 3,000 words or so by the time it's all said and done. I mean, with the F1 list, the top two are very, very obvious. It's actually, in my opinion, quite interesting once you get down from three, 4, 5, and then down to 10. I think there's a lot of flexibility in the second half of that list, and I think it's going to be interesting. There's a couple of guys that I think are going to surprise people when they read my piece as to who I had where. But the MotoGP version, if the Formula 1 does well, I'll do a MotoGP version as well. Definitely. Definitely. So I would stay tuned on that front. And Charles asking, Fabio would not make that top 10. A decent rookie season on its own is not going to be enough. Running down the rough set of names in my head for a MotoGP top 10, Marquez absolutely gets in, Dovi gets in, Lorenzo moonwalks in, Casey Stoner probably gets in, even if it's just the one world title he won in the decade. I don't know if Casey would get in, given that he only raced for 3 years of the decade, but he did win a world title and won a lot of Grand Prix. He probably would get in. Dovi gets in, without a doubt. Rossi, even though his career has faded, would still absolutely get in. So, the top two names are obvious. It's Marquez and Lorenzo. They're the top two riders of the decade. No doubt about that. Dovi's probably third or fourth on that list, and then everywhere else is a bit more interesting. I'd have to give it a bit more thought. Guys like Cal Crutchlow might just sneak in there, for example. It's interesting, though. Certainly worth a lot of thought. Let's have a look here. Cody's are looking to add F3 with a road to F1 mode. Well, we'll see. I mean, adding more series certainly doesn't hurt if they can get it all on disc. Them adding F2 this year was a great addition. Objectively, the F2 cars are very fun to drive and a nice change of pace, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's have a look here. Just checking the chat again real quick. Yeah, Stoner would get in. There's no doubt about that. Stoner won a world title, had multiple... I mean, he had a world title 11-win season in 2011 at the start of the decade. Even though he only raced for 3 years, him being a world champion would automatically get him on the list. The only question is where. Probably in the top 5. Maybe 4th or 5th. Hi Zoe, nice to see you. Dom asking, can we talk about the hot mess of England cricket, both men's and women's as a whole? Look, I'm wearing a jersey. I'll keep it brief because I don't want to bore people because cricket's a bit niche even for us, but we won the World Cup. Awesome. We drew the Ashes series with Australia. That wasn't dreadful. I think we actually did have half a chance to win the Ashes back, but we just didn't have the bowling. Losing Jimmy Anderson early certainly didn't help. Obviously, Stokes had the miracle at Headingley, which certainly helped. But England, again, is going to have to sit down and ask itself what it wants to be. Because I think they need to start splitting the formats. I think they need to have a specialist white ball team and a specialist test team. And I think they need to start recalibrating the test game and the county game towards tests. Start using the Kookaburra ball over the Duke's ball. Have flatter pitches so we can get used to foreign conditions. And start producing batsmen that can get used to these conditions so they can play with more versatility once we go out to Australia for the Ashes, or we go to India, or we go to New Zealand, or we go to South Africa for these foreign series. We have more than enough batsmen that can bat at a strike rate of 130 or more that are big power hitters that can score runs in bunches in limited overs cricket. Johnny Bairstow, Jason Roy, Joss Buttler, Ben Stokes can bat anything he wants. Owen Morgan, Joe Root, Alex Hale should absolutely be back in the team as far as I'm concerned. I don't know why he was blackballed so hard after the drug test failure. He should be back in the team now. If James Vince can get back into the T20 team, there should absolutely be viability for Hales to come back, and start producing test cricketers that can play the test game separately. Keep Joe Root to one format rather than, having him juggle being a T20 guy, an ODI guy, and the World Cup guy. You don't want to burn these guys out. Same with superstar talent like Jofra Archer, who can bowl at 96 miles an hour. You don't want to burn these dudes out by just making them a T20 mercenary who's going to play every single format under the sun, especially with the 100 coming next year as well. And I'm one of the guys that actually likes the 100 as a format, but do we need 4 formats of cricket in this country? Probably not, There's a lot going on there. And the women's game as well probably needs a reboot as well, using the same talent over and over again. Sophie Eccleston's a breakout star, which, good for her, but we got completely obliterated by Australia in the Ashes on that one from the women's side of the game. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, as Miles said, yeah, we did, to a degree, yeah, we absolutely fluked the World Cup. We should not have won the World Cup. We had 2 or 3 1 in a million plays take place during that World Cup final. We did well to completely curb stomp Australia in the semis. But in the final, Bolt doesn't put his foot on the rope. That's not a 6. Stokes is out. The game is over. The overthrow that bounced off the bat and went to the fence should have been 5 runs and not 6 because the runners didn't start crossing. And that's a brilliant goal for Tottenham. Christian Eriksen has just scored a brilliant free kick, by the way. The overthrow was 5. It should have been 5 runs and not 6. The umpire got it wrong because Guptill's throw had come in from the deep before the runners had crossed. We scored 15 off the super over, and then Jofra Archer bowls a wide the first ball in the super over. We got very, very, very lucky to win that World Cup. And of course we're going to bask in its glory now, but we've spent the last 4 years developing the white ball game, and then we kind of backed off on tests. It's a weird thing they got to juggle, and it's hard to juggle both of those elements at the same time. I think they need to split them up. I think they need separate coaching teams at this point. But good luck to Chris Silverwood and Andrew Strauss and Ashley Giles, the guys running British cricket, because it's going to be a hard one to juggle all of that, quite frankly. Sup Azir, how you doing? Let's have a look. Yeah, of course Jose's pumped. Yeah, it was a brilliant free kick from Eriksen. Brilliant free kick. What can the sim racing community do to encourage more women to participate in sim games, says Charles. Put money into it. Put money into it. Make it a viable option in areas where it's not normally accessible. More money needs to be put into it. I think you need cheaper tech to get people involved because, again, sim racing is expensive, okay? Like, I'm not even talking on the on the Jimmy Broadbent level where he's got thousands of pounds worth of equipment and VR headsets and pedals and, top-of-the-line stuff that's been paid for by sponsors. I think you need accessibility is key. Get the cost down as much as you possibly can, first and foremost. Get influencers on board. I'm not dissing him because Jimmy Broadbent's done a brilliant job on that level, on a mainstream level, to make it more accessible on YouTube and whatnot, and he's done wonders in that area. And more video games have done a better job in recent years, like Gran Turismo Sport and its World Series, and F1 and its esports series. We are making positive strides in that direction, but I'm not sure what the next move is to get more women involved, because the demographics are massive, and the questions we need to be asking ourselves is why are girls not into motorsport? Is it marketed too much as a male-dominated sport? The answer is probably yes to that, but then how do we go about trying to fix it? Is it a school thing? Is it a marketing thing for us as broadcasters? Do we need more schemes to get more younger girls into it? I don't know. There's probably more than there's probably many ways of skinning that cat. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. Oh wow, offside. Dele Alli just scored, put the ball in the net, but it was flagged back for offside. But as I was saying, let's have a look here real quick. Just checking the chat again. Zoe saying, is it a thing that when England wins a series, they get thrashed in their next match because it happened after the World Cup in '66 too? Well, like I said, the next big bit of cricket after the World Cup was the Ashes, which we drew. We drew the series 2-2, so it's not like we got smoked. It's just it papered over a lot of the cracks. Do you think Renault will be a top 3 team in 2021? No. I don't think anything is going to breach the top 3 until the regulation changes happen, and even then, I'd be surprised if something massive were to change. I'm not entirely convinced that salary caps are going to fix the problem either, but we'll have to wait and see. I want to see, obviously, be more practical as time goes on and then go from there, but I'm not convinced. Trusting Sibley and Crawley is needed in the test team, absolutely. Hi, Canna, I hope you're doing all right. Wish I had the patience for test cricket. I really enjoyed playing it at school, but I don't have the attention span to watch. No, look, man, I don't blame you. Test cricket is the sort of thing it's brilliant on radio. If you've got like Test Match Special on your phone, you have it on in the background as audio material. It is a bit dull to watch sometimes. That is why every major cricketing nation in the world now has a T20 league. South Africa just started theirs last year. Bangladesh now has a Premier League. Every major cricketing nation on earth has their own T20 league. The Caribbean now has had one for a couple of years now. Even Canada has a T20 league. It says it all. And of course, we're getting our own version with the 100, which will actually be partly broadcast on the BBC on free-to-air TV. Thank God we're getting some free-to-air cricket in this country. Because the T20 Blast is awesome. Our own version is great, but it's on Sky. Again, £30 paywalls. You want to enhance the reputation of cricket in the country, and yet half of it's behind a paywall. And that sucks. The IPL is great, and it's back on again in March. It's the biggest T20 league in the world, and it's got more star players than any other league. But, more needs to be done in the UK, certainly. Let's have a look here. People keep thinking Renault will do a Merc with a regulation change 2021. Regulation is minuscule compared to 2014. Oh no! An own goal! 2-1 Norwich, and it's an own goal. A defensive mix-up, and Timu Puki's shot has deflected in, I think, off Davinson Sanchez. It's Serge Aurier, actually, that's got the last touch on it. It's 2-1 Norwich. For those that aren't watching the football, it's like Puki's shot in the box is taking a big deflection. Pookie was wide open, and Alderweireld made the tackle, catching up to the Timu Puki that's in 3 yards of open space. He's made the tackle and got the ball away, but it's come off Aurier and gone in. How very Spurs. Oh dear. I was saying, so do you think there could be a cricket popularity boom at some point? Well, let's a possibility. Us winning the World Cup was massive for cricket, absolutely huge. And it needs to build on that. Like that, and the Ashes did great work. It needs to build on that, and the 100 is their big catalyst for what they want to have. But I'm not sure if the 100's going to be what they want it to be in terms of a fourth format. You've made the format of the game even smaller, but it's more tactical. It's 100 balls compared to the 120 in a T20 game. It's going to be a bit quicker in terms of pace. There's no lunch break in the middle of the game. They can get the whole thing done apparently in 2 hours, which is better for TV, which is why the BBC, I think, has put it on free-to-air. That's the big one. They want the 100 to be the focus for cricket in this country. Whether it actually works or not, we'll have to wait and see, but at least getting some games on free-to-air again will absolutely help. Definitely. Whether it has a big boom, doubt it. We'll have to wait and see. How long before people say it's only 5 titles because the first was Masters? Doesn't that happen already enough? Oh dear. Is it saying, is Ricciardo to Ferrari in 2021 a possibility? Maybe. I mean, it depends. Does Ricciardo want to risk putting himself out there if he wants to jettison the Renault project early? Because, Daniel Ricciardo is a great driver, and it was obvious he had to get out of Red Bull because it was becoming Verstappen's team very, very quickly. And I can understand why part of him wanted to walk away because he was getting the hellacious level of bad luck when he was there at Red Bull towards the end of his time there. He had so many mechanical retirements and issues and stuff that wasn't his fault. And, getting team orders treatment in Austria qualifying as well. And Verstappen was not playing ball like it was his team. It goes on. Renault is not the juggernaut it's going to be. I think Ricciardo would owe it to himself to at least see what happens in 2021. But this is a massive silly season right now. And if, let's say, Sebastian Vettel does walk away from Ferrari, he's probably number 1 on the list of guys I'd want to sign to replace him, because I don't think Verstappen would go to Ferrari. I think Verstappen is probably going to go to Mercedes. Who for remains to be seen. If Hamilton wants to gamble on one last big career change, we'll have to wait and see. I'm leaning towards no on that one, because I think if Ferrari should target someone, I think it should be Carlos Sainz Jr., but hey, we'll see. 2020 is a massive, silly season. There's 100 ways it could go. And I think the big catalyst to start it off will be, does Lewis Hamilton want to stay at Mercedes for the rest of his career? Because given he's 35 in January, he's probably got one more big contract left in him in F1. I don't see him racing into his 40s like Schumacher. Especially when he's this close to being F1's greatest statistical driver ever. Probably one more big season like this one, and he'll have every major record in the book. So, we'll have to wait and see. But, there's options there for him, and that's probably the biggest part of that. Sorry, one of my mates is just messaging me on Facebook. Plot twist, Alonso back to Ferrari. No, Miles. No. Cricket is a very middle type of class sport, accessibility an issue. Absolutely a good point as well on that one from Miles. Cricket has got a similar width of F1, but at least cricket is played in schools. That is a help. There is more incentive on a grassroots level to get into the game. Something that Formula One just doesn't have, or motorsport in general does not have. It's something. It's not a lot, but it's a start. We don't celebrate fascist titles here. Nice keyboard. Oh, thank you. It is a very nice keyboard. It's a mechanical one, rainbow coloured. You'd love to see it. I should probably type on my phone more often instead. What are the odds he goes for title number 8? I think pretty high. He reminds me a lot of Ronnie O'Sullivan when Ronnie O'Sullivan started to claim he wasn't going after Stephen Hendry's titles when he got his 5th. And I did not believe him for a second. He absolutely wanted to go after Stephen Hendry's 7. And obviously he still can in snooker. But I think Judd Trump is the world's best player right now. And I don't think that will happen. But you know, when Lewis Hamilton said he wasn't really a record chaser, he wasn't focused about Michael, he's lying. All those athletes that think that I don't think like that are lying. Because honestly, if Hamilton, you know, really wasn't bothered by that, he probably would have hung it up after this season. Get into 6. I mean, it's the law of diminishing returns. It's like Tom Brady. Tom Brady was probably the greatest quarterback ever when he got his 4th ring. Now he has 6. It doesn't make his legacy any greater at this point. I mean, he was probably already to go after 3 or 4. Depends what motivates Hamilton to continue. Does F1 still motivate him? Is it being a fashion designer? Is it, you know, media? Like, only Lewis knows for sure. It's hard to say. He's got more star appeal than anyone in F1's ever had. And that's the blessing and the curse of Lewis. You know? No, I don't think so either, Isa. I don't think Ronnie will win another title. I don't think mentally he's built for 17 days of snooker anymore. I think he's still the sort of guy where he'll come up at a venue for a ranking event, and if he's feeling in a good place and he's in good form, he can still win any given ranking title on paper. I don't think he's built for 17 days anymore. I think Judd Trump is the most complete snooker player in the world right now, and I would still probably take Trump, Higgins, and probably Mark Selby or Neil Robertson over Ronnie as favourites to win a world title. Especially Judd, because I mean, having his brother there, Judd was in a different league this past season. No, Judd Trump is great. Got to be very careful. You've got to mention the Judd bit first, given it's Trump for obvious reasons. But no, Judd's a great guy. I like him. He's exciting, but he knows when to get his head down and play. He plays on a different level, and he's a car nut. I like guys like that. I just do. Let's have a look here in the chat. Alex Goldsmith's here. Hi, Alex. Nice to see you, buddy. Long time no see. Hope you had a good Christmas. Think Fernando has definitely burnt a lot of bridges with the way he's moved around this year, especially as he's doing the Dakar and apparently returning to the Indy 500. Not sure on the latter. Yeah, I was also Fernando's just Fernando. I think he just likes being a gentleman driver at this point, and just driving in whatever series pick his fancy, and obviously channeling his big reputation to, you know, make that work for him. And it's obvious he still badly wants the Triple Crown. He's turned it into a marketing gimmick for him. Nobody gave a shit about the Triple Crown until he started attempting it and making it public that he wanted to go after the Indy 500 and Le Mans. Obviously, he's now won Le Mans twice and whatnot. That's the only one left. I don't think McLaren are the outfit he's going to win a 500 with, but of course, you know, the brand of McLaren is a big deal, and winning it under them would probably be a big plus for them. Alonso can't keep doing this for much longer, but we'll see how he goes. I mean, he is coming up towards 40 years of age, and, you know, the natural skill starts to go after a certain point. It's unavoidable. Yeah, I did notice, Joe. Hi, Joe. I didn't notice that Ronnie dropped out of the Masters. See, he's just weird like that, Ronnie O'Sullivan. He still has these weird, like, his brain is, like, still not fully tuned in. I know he's talked about battling depression and mental health, and I know he's got his close circle of mates like Steve Peters and, you know, like Damien Hirst and whatnot. But he just said that, you know, I've not played a full season and this spot should go to someone else. And I'm just like, Ronnie, it's the Masters, bruh. Like, go play the Masters. But I don't know. I don't know what's up with him these days. Mr. Random Guy, do you know what happened to MSTF1? I used to love his channel. I don't want to speculate too hard because he was a good friend. And we had a lot of respect for each other. I think mentally he could not cope with the amount of people that were asking him to produce content. It was already enough of a battle to fight FOM on copyright claims on YouTube. We all know that, you know, how hard it is to battle that on YouTube, and having F1 content on there. He had already faced copyright strikes and warnings in the past from FOM, you know, and whatnot. But he did have a fan base that grew very, very quickly. I think he was over 10,000 subs at one point. And I think he cracked under the pressure of trying to make more content. And I think he just stopped. I think he's very low profile on social media these days. I'm friends with him on Facebook. He's not on Facebook anymore. He just occasionally posts stuff on Instagram now. And he just wants, and if that's the way he wants to live his life, then, you know, more power to him. And it's a shame because him and Chris Cook were brilliant for the F1 community. We needed something different. We needed something new rather than just, you know, playing the same old video games every single year and hoping that would work. They were great at what they did, and I was honoured to have a small part in some of their videos in the past. But it is a constant fight. It is a constant, relentless pressure to keep pumping out videos like that and still trying to stay funny and you know, making it work that way. You know, it's hard. It is very, very hard to do that. And I applaud him for it. But you know, it's also a real struggle, and I feel sad for him. But, you know, Chris is doing good things. Chris is, you know, he's now working on his music career, which is what his true passion was. You know, he's found love because his girlfriend Haley is a good friend of mine and an absolute delight, a very nice girl. Great artist and designer, and just an all-round lovely girl, and I'm happy for Chris in that sense, and I wish them both all the very best in whatever they decide to do in life. You know, that's just YouTube. YouTube breaks people. It nearly broke me, so I can completely relate to what they had to go through at times. Absolutely. Just checking the chat real quick. Facebook as well. A sec. One sec. Yeah, man. Like as Leandra said, yeah, YouTube breaks people, man. YouTube's algorithms are fucked up. They've been fucked up for quite some time. 3 or 4 years, I'd argue. Like I talked about on my Instagram page about a week or two ago. You know, it caused me to have a mental breakdown, and I wasn't even making content every day. I was doing 2 or 3 videos a week, and I thought juggling that with a full-time job was relentlessly hard. I still to this day don't know how guys like Arav and Ben and, you know, the real big hitters in the F1 community, I don't know how they're able to do it full time. It would drive me insane. And it's why doing Motorsport 101 is easier, because podcasts in general are easier. And to be fair, we get a lot of help on that. Like, RJ does a brilliant job editing, and Lewis has chipped in every once in a while. And, you know, there's 4 or 5 of us that are regularly on it in that sense. So it makes it not that demanding. And it's actually kind of frustrating for me, because a part of me really wants to go hard on it in 2020 with videos again and start making regular content again and, because I do, like, video making is my passion. It is my hobby, and I've loved doing it, and I love this platform and what it does. But I also know it's very hard to be successful unless you put everything into it. Like, you have to be making videos almost every day, and the algorithms support people that are Let's Players or news channels or big corporation channels. It's really, really hard to get a footnote in that space. And, like, once YouTube picks you up, it carries you. It's why guys like Jimmy Broadbent have now got, like, 200,000 plus subs, and Super GT, another good friend of mine, has got over 100 grand, and he's doing brilliantly. Subscribe to him, by the way. He's a great guy. Steve is awesome. Others that are in this space that do it full time. I don't know how they do it, man. It's fucking mental, and the passion is enough for them, and I hope that is enough. But it is mental, to say the least. Just check back on the chat. I've not seen Ford versus Ferrari, or as we call it here, Le Mans 66. I do need to see it at some point. I'm probably wait for it to come out on Blu-ray and then pick it up. It also broke me. Hour of clickbaits, though. Look, man. As he quite rightly points out, man. Like, every YouTuber clickbaits. I used to be subscribed to We Cricket on YouTube, and then their podcast, the Golden Ducks podcast, as a cricket fan. And I like their content, but they are the worst clickbaiters I've ever seen. And their podcast is, to be honest, a bit crap. And some of their videos, when they talk about teams of the year, they're literally just on their laptops Googling stats and then just saying, oh, well, this guy averaged 78 in Test cricket this year. He goes in this team. And that's exactly what I don't want to do. I don't want to fall into those classic YouTube traps. But at the same time, sometimes it's the only way to get big. And that sucks. And I don't want to sell my soul to the devil to do that. It's hard. It's a hard fight. It really is. And yeah, I just saw it as well. Dele Alli did just miss a sitter for Tottenham. Well, it was a relative sitter. His body was kind of off balance when the cross came in, but dear, we'll have to wait and see. Would you ever consider getting into watching sports cars like IMSA or GT3, says Toki? Probably not, to be honest. Like, I'm dropping series. I didn't watch British Superbikes full time this year. And that used to be one of my favourite series to watch. I stopped watching it this year because I wasn't as interested with Scott Redding being the face of the promotion rather than Leon Haslam and Jake Dixon, who are now in World Superbikes and Moto2 respectively. Oh, penalty for Tottenham. Harry Kane's been tackled in the box. I'm watching less series these days rather than more. And I do watch a lot of sports in general, so finding the time on that is hard. Oh yeah, Stonewall penalty, by the way. Harry Kane's beating him on the inside with the drag back, and he's been clobbered in the box. That's a Stonewall penalty for Tottenham. Zimmerman was completely beaten. Yeah, can't argue with that one, really. If it was a red card, it wouldn't have surprised me because Kane's completely done him up. Oh, VAR's having a look at this. I don't know why. It's a Stonewall penalty. Like, okay, they're not. Okay, penalty confirmed. All good. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm doing well, Vic. Good to see you, buddy. Oh, Ivy Andrew. Yeah, I miss bike life too, buddy. I really do. Like, it's hard incorporating bikes into M101, and I hope I did this season justice with World Superbikes and MotoGP, because it is not the same without Lewis. I will be the first person to tell you that, and I think everyone would know that none of us are Lewis, and he was a brilliant partner in what we did and what we chose to do, and I miss Lewis immensely, but I'm also at the same time incredibly proud of him. That's over there working with Dorna in their social media department. He's a great guy. He's a great friend. Harry Kane scores the penalty, by the way, 2-2. in that one. It's hard. It's hard doing it without him, and he's a brilliant co-host, and I couldn't be prouder of him. And a part of me would always be sad that he's not going to be a full-time member of the show anymore. But I'm also delighted that he's made it. He got the dream job. Working at Dorna, working in their social media department, producing great content over there, and he's still in our Discord server, and he still drops in like spoilers and little tidbits of insider information. Like, I knew about Marc Marquez's 8-ball celebration earlier than just about anyone in the world did. And he also dropped me the news about Jorge Lorenzo's retirement before just about anybody else did as well. Lewis is awesome like that, but of course, sadly missed in terms of a podcasting standpoint. But a guy can dream, We'll probably bump into each other at Autosport in a couple of weeks' time, which is great. So looking forward to a reunion there with my boy Lewis. So good for him. When am I trashing you in Ultimate? Soon, Zoe. Soon. Oh look, Mr. Penalty Points himself. Ryan Littlemore is here. Ryan 93. How you doing, buddy? Good to catch up with you, man. Miss you. Hope you're doing great. Hope you had a good Christmas. But yeah, I mean, you guys in the chat completely echo my sentiment. Lewis is one of the good ones, and trust me, our relationship on Bike Live was exactly what you thought it was. We didn't fake anything that was on there. We just were genuinely two big sports fans who loved bikes, and it just were able to talk about it so seamlessly. And he is a great guy. He's a great mate, and like I said, I will always be incredibly proud of him. It is what it is on that sense, and like I said, I'm incredibly proud of him in that sense. Yeah. So it's just great. It's great to see him do well. Sorry, I've still got half one eye on the Tottenham game in the background. It's sad. Just checking the chat. Yada. Zlatan going to AC Milan? No, I think it's a good move. Like, I know it seems a little bit desperate on paper, but Milan are 11th in Serie A right now, and if Zlatan can come in, keep his roughly the same quality, and still, probably finish. If he can score 10 to 15 goals in the second half of the season, that could be enough to get Milan into Europe. They're only 8 points out of the Europa League. It's not unthinkable they can come back. So if you can gamble for half a year of Zlatan, why not? It's a low risk, high reward move, and they'll sell some shirts because Zlatan is still Zlatan. So, bound to do well. Yeah, Ryan, man, decent Christmas. I mean, it's been a nice distraction because on a personal standpoint, it's been a pretty hard month for me in that sense. December's been a bit shit, all told. I broke up with my girlfriend earlier in the month. That was like second day of this, like that. I had a really horrible week where I got knocked back for a head office promotion gig at Paddy Power where I work. And then my girlfriend split up with me in the course of a 4-day span. in the course of a 4-day span, it was shit. It was really shit. Look, I'm smiling now, and I don't want to turn this into a bitch fest because me and her are still friends. We just wanted different things in life. I mean, some of you even know her on Twitter. It's Tiff Fletcher. I'm probably not going to be dating in motorsport social media circles ever again because it's the second time I've been hosed in that sense. But she's an incredible woman, and I will always have a place in my heart for her. And she's made me the person I am today, and she made me a lot more disciplined, a lot more organised, a lot more caring and understanding, and finding a bit more confidence in myself. But we just wanted different things. You know, she was 5 years older than me, and she was, you know, properly thinking about, you know, settling down, kids, marriage, the big stuff. I still kind of want to, you know, see the world and not be quite so shackled in my. I'm 27, and I'm still like, I still got things I want to do, and we just felt like the distance was just a bit too hard, and it just wasn't going to work because she's in Nottingham, and I'm down here in London. She was 150 miles away, and I was only ever really seeing her once a month on average. So the whole thing was just, it was a fight. It was a hard fight, especially in the second half of this year, and it all just came to a head at Christmas, which is just the worst time for that to happen. But, you know, life goes on. We'll find a way to recover and get better from it. And, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in 2020. I look at it as like a fresh start, and, you know, it's symbolic in that sense. And I hope it can bring something new to the table, you know? Because it's not been a particularly great year for me in that sense. Like, 2018 was the best year of my life. 2018 was amazing, you know, got my first tattoo, and, you know, I changed jobs for I got a better paying manager's job at Paddy Power compared to William Hill. They were paying $5,000 a year more from a management standpoint. You know, the podcast went to 100,000 plays, and, you know, it was going really, really well. And, you know, everything was coming up Millhouse. I got to go to MotoGP in Brno. It was and you know, I met my girlfriend, and it was an amazing year. 2019 was just shit. I didn't make anywhere near as much content as I would have liked. The podcast was a little bit stagnant I mean, the dedicated fans have come up in droves, which has been fantastic, but I didn't quite get the amount of coverage I would have liked. I didn't make a lot of content this year, and just in general, from a personal standpoint, the whole thing's just kind of been wheel spinning. And, you know, 2020 is going to be a very interesting year, and I hope just one for the better in general. Yikes! That was a bigger rant than I was hoping for. But we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Let's have a look at the chat real quick. Have I seen the United run? Have I seen the United lineup? I have not. Let me have a butcher's real quick. Just checking on Twitter real quick. De Gea, Young, Lindelof, Maguire, Williams, Fred, Matic, James, Pereira, Rashford, Martial. Pogba not even in the squad. Ayah. Wan-Bissaka on the bench as well. That's a weird one, man. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think we're taking that Burnley game very seriously, but hey, I know you got to rotate at some point, but yeah, that's a weird one as far as I'm concerned. So good to see you after there. Thanks for that, Jeff, man. I appreciate it. I mean, I'm gonna make it a habit in 2020 to talk about these things less in my own personal life. But people that know me know I'm a pretty open book when it comes to that sort of thing. And you know, my first thought when I split up with Tiff and when I got back to the UK was make sure she's okay and make sure that she doesn't get harassed on the internet, because I know I do have a fairly big profile, but I don't want it to spill over too much. But I also, at the same time, I don't want people to get confused, like, oh, why are you guys still talking if you're no longer together or anything like that. I felt like I got to sort of talk about it a little bit openly. I told my Discord server first, more than anybody else, about what happened with that. But how much of my tattoo hurt? Did I design it myself? I know it's hard to see here because I can't really twist my arm like that. That's better. Yeah, I didn't design it myself. I had a very good friend of mine, Natasha, design it. I'll pull up my Instagram so you can check out her stuff, because she's a fantastic artist and does a lot of wrestling-based stuff. You can follow her on Instagram at Tasha's_13. I will put that in the chat real quick. She's a very good friend of mine who designed the font for it. And yeah, she's done my one, and I've got another one coming in the next, hopefully, couple of weeks. I want to get it ironed out. I've got a couple of days off next week, and I might just see if I can get it booked and done and out of the way to start the new year. So I've got another one coming up very soon. But it didn't actually hurt that much. It's like I don't know. I know different areas are often tricky in that sense, but for me personally, obviously left forearm, it wasn't too bad. It was just more like a deep scratch, a bit like that feeling when you get an injection, but just for longer, just sustained, and you get used to it after a while. It was more like, I can see how some people get addicted to that sort of thing. I don't personally. It's not something that I got off of or like it's some sort of porn video or something, like like you get a tattoo and you start playing with yourself. But I can see how people will get hooked to it, certainly. But I'm not that sort of guy. It's got to mean something for me to get it tattooed. But it didn't particularly hurt. It was about a 4 out of 10 on the pain scale for me. It was just a deep scratch more than anything else. Like the actual job itself, it took about an hour. It was fine. It was fine. I came out, looked after it, and yeah, pretty straightforward in that sense. And yeah, like the font, ironically, it does look a lot like Kimi Räikkönen's Iceman tattoo. That was not the intention, but it does look a lot like Kimi Räikkönen's when I am aware of that, and people did point that out to me when I first got it. But it's a thing. Will you return to GT Sport, or did Cam scare you off? I play too many. I've got a lack of time for games, man. Like I've dedicated a lot of time into Pokemon Sword lately on the Switch, and like even that has taken a lot of free time. And GT Sport is fine, but I'm not going to play it online. So what's the point, really? I might give the Hamilton DLC a go, but I doubt I'll be playing GT Sport again on a regular basis. There's just games I'd much rather play. Solskjaer out, says Miles. Look, I know we kind of disagree on this, but the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to think that they should probably get rid of Ole now and start thinking about Pochettino. If they don't see Ole as the long-term manager in 4 or 5 years who could potentially get us back into title contention, there's no point keeping him around now. Like, if he's not going to be the guy for, long-term, then I don't see the point in keeping him. You're better off saying, okay, Ollie, thanks for your service. You did a good job holding the fort down for a bit. We'll bring in Pochettino. We'll give him a blank check and say, hey, come to United. We'll give you the money for signings. Make it work. You got 4 years to win us a league title, basically. So, if Ollie's not your long-term guy, or if you don't think he's going to get you back to the promised land, there's no point in keeping him. As far as I'm concerned, you might as well give it to somebody else and see if they can get there. But hey, we'll see. The funny thing is, Viandra, is that I've got the Spider-Man game, but it's my brother's copy of it. I've just not played it, and I probably should, because I know it's very good, and I know a lot of people have said to me that it's very good. I've just not got around to playing it yet. Again, I'm just juggling a lot of spare time at the moment and just seeing what I can do and what not to do, and I'm doing a lot of weighing up on that for 2020. Like I said, I do want to do more with M101 in 2020. I do want to do hangouts like this, maybe after every Grand Prix, or do at least one video a week, whether it be a Dre brief or a video blog or something. I want to be more consistent with content, and hopefully that'll come soon. I just got to sit down and figure out what's the best plan of action basically, on that front. But hey, we'll have to wait and see. Certainly worth thinking about. Full time, Leicester beat West Ham 2-1. And full time, Norwich, that game ends 2-2. Just checking the old Twitters, checking the chat. Who do you think gets that 4th spot in the Premier League? He says your money's on Wolves. Maybe. I still think Wolves play to their opposition a bit too much. They're a bit like us. They do really well against the good teams, but they often cough it up against teams they really should beat. But they're certainly built for it. They don't lose very often, and that's always a plus. They're always keeping the scoreboard ticking over. I don't know. Maybe Tottenham. I've got a feeling that Mourinho will get them to play well semi-regularly. And that might be enough. I don't know. They've still got enough quality in their squad, or I think it wouldn't take much for them to get into the top 4. I mean, they're only 2 points outside of it still. And I think on paper they're better than Wolves. But I don't know. I don't know if Santo's got the squad, given his lack of rotation, to do that over an entire 38-game season. We'll have to wait and see. The blessing for them is it's close, and it wouldn't take a lot for them to get there. But it's that unproven factor of them that makes me a bit unsure as to whether they could do something like that or not. But yeah, we shall see. Hey, random guy, I'm not a big movie guy, to be honest with you. I really should, but I am not a massive movie person. I should be, but I'm not, unfortunately. I do like sports documentaries in general. I do like action films. I'm not a big horror guy. I know a couple of guys have asked me about that earlier. You know, it's interesting, but yeah, I'm not the biggest movie guy. This week. Let's have a think. I'm just checking my phone real quick. Thanks, Toki. Have a good one, buddy. Who needs the bigger rebuild? Us or Arsenal? Probably Arsenal. Arsenal are sort of weird to me, where it's like, I don't think Arsenal are as bad as what they are on paper, but I think Arsenal are going to end up selling 2 or 3 players before the start of next year. It looks like Xhaka is gone. It looks like they don't know what to do with Torreira. I think Ozil will probably walk at the end of his contract and go somewhere else, because it's obvious he's not respected at Arsenal. And, you know, they've distanced themselves from Ozil, especially after the comments he made about Muslims in China, you know, and he's not played for 90 minutes. He's not seen as, like, I don't think he's looked at as the guy at Arsenal. And it looks like Aubameyang might go to Real Madrid, or he might be sold to some other big team, whether it be Real or maybe he goes back to Germany. I don't know. But it looks like Aubameyang is desperate to leave, apparently, because I think he sees the writing on the wall and that there's a good chance Arsenal isn't in Europe next year. And he's probably too good a player not to play in Europe. You know, say what you will about Aubameyang, and he's a bit of a flat-track bully, and he's not, you know, the most gifted striker of all time, and he is 29 years old. He's got one more big contract in him, and he's not going to want to be spending his prime years not playing European football. So, yeah, it's going to be hard. The way I see Arsenal, they probably need 5 or 6 players. I'm not fully. I don't think Aubameyang will stay, and I don't think Lacazette is good enough to be a 30-goal season player. Pepe, I don't know what the plan is with Pepe. I think he is talented, but he's not getting game time. I think he's already fallen out of favour in that club, and I don't know what the deal is with that. They're going to need another number 10. You know, Ozil is not the guy for the future. Ozil is already 30, close to 30 years old. Probably needs to find a new club. They need a world-class number 10. That's a must now in this league for any long-term success. They need at least one new centre-back. David Luiz was a silly buy. Socrates is okay. Mustafi is a bust and needs to be sold. Maybe the guy they loaned out, Sidibe, next year could be pretty good. We'll have to wait and see how he gets on in the league itself. But they need probably 5 or 6 players, especially if they're going to be selling 2 or 3 towards the end of this season. And I think United are probably a little bit closer to being a world-class team again, but our holes are a bit more obvious. United absolutely need another world-class midfielder. They probably need another world-class winger. They absolutely need another left-back because Luke Shaw is not going to be I don't think Luke Shaw is ever going to be that guy that we all want him to be at United. And we need a world-class holding midfielder. So I think we still need 3 or 4 players ourselves, to be honest. But I don't think we're in as bad a situation as Arsenal, personally. I think there is a bit more quality in our first 11 than Arsenal's is. And whether we'll have to wait and see as well what sort of mentality Arsenal are going to bring to the table, whether they're going to put full faith in their youth. Because I think Arsenal have got a very good youth system. I think they've got good youth talent. I like Smith Rowe. I like Martinelli. Maitland-Niles is okay. He's not amazing, but I think they've got good young players there. Give them a proper chance in the team and see what they can do. Well, so asking about Aubameyang, Miles. I mean, I get it. I mean, he wanted bigger things than Dortmund. Dortmund were getting cock-blocked by Bayern Munich in Germany all the time, where he made his name for himself playing for Dortmund. And it's funny because Dortmund are now a better team since he's left. And he's gone to Arsenal. He forced a move to Arsenal. But to be fair, Arsenal were a better team back then. Like, Arsenal, you could still see the potential in them, especially when Lacazette was a good buy, not a great buy. But, they had a dangerous-looking attack. A couple of more signings at the time when he went from Dortmund to Arsenal, and Arsenal could have been a league challenger again. If they'd spent big money on defence, rather than on guys like Mustafi, who was middle of the road at best, and loading up the offence, if they'd spent it by building a great defensive team, especially given they do tend to play very well at home, and focused on that and went from the back forward, maybe kept Aaron Ramsey for a little bit longer, who I think is a good player, I think they would have been better off. I think they've certainly gone backwards in the last year and a half. Certainly. I mean, for all the talk about Wenger out, and, their struggles, and, saying Wenger this and Wenger that and Wenger out, then they're worse than what they were when he was still there. Undisputedly. He was sacked off the back of 3 trophies in 4 years. It's weird how that one turns out. So, I can understand why Aubameyang went from Dortmund to Arsenal. But at the same time, it's clear he regrets it because he's got one foot out the door now by the sounds of it. Debating about United. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I can't argue with any of the comments in there, guys. We do need a left back. I'm with Miles over Vic on this one. We do need a left back. Luke Shaw is not good enough. Luke Shaw is an okay fullback, and I don't know how. I don't want to totally pin this on him because I think the leg break has had something to do with that as well. Where I think his athleticism is not what it was. Some guys never come back after a leg break the same. Like I remember, like Samuel Eto'o, when it happened to him, he was never the same after he broke his leg. Same with David Villa. He was never. His pace is completely evaporated after the leg break happened. And it might be the same with Luke Shaw, because he's never been the hardest working guy in camp. He's always had poor fitness, and then on top of that, a broken leg, and on top of that, as you mentioned, all the attack comes down the right-hand side of the pitch. We don't have a sustainable attack down the left flank. And as Miles says, Brandon Williams is a okay talent. He's an okay youth player, but he's not ready for this sort of level of play on a regular basis. So yeah, I think left back is an absolute must. I think centre midfield is an absolute must because Matic's legs are about to fall off. They could fall off any minute, and I agree with you, Miles. I think Ben Chilwell would be a better shout. Like, you look at Liverpool, for example, and you look at Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson. Robertson, I think, is a bit overrated, but so much of their attack comes from fullbacks, or comes from their fullback position. It adds an extra dimension to their attack, and that's what makes Liverpool probably the best team in the world right now. So we're nowhere near to that. And I'd like it. Like, one of the things we were famous for at United was having dynamic fullbacks that could attack the opposition. Gary Neville was a great crosser of the ball. Patrice Evra was a fast, dynamic fullback. You could even go back to the days of Dennis Irwin, for example. We were great for having dynamic attacking fullbacks, and now every major force in world football has them. Look at when Barcelona was in their prime and they had Dani Alves and Jordi Alba, and I just go, oh man, that was so good. We ain't got that no more. Like Bayern Munich, when they've had Joshua Kimmich and David Alaba, and in his prime, Philip Lahm, and I'm jealous of that. I really am. Yeah, Torres is another example, another broken leg guy that never came back the same. It might be the FIFA in me, but yeah, Leicester, 200 mil for Chilwell, Ndidi, and Maddison. I mean, it would never happen, Miles, but I get the sentiment. I do, honestly. But Leicester's not going to be selling, especially if they're probably going to end up in the Champions League again next year. They're the second best team in the country right now. They're probably going to get an automatic Champions League spot. And if they get that, that'll be more income coming in. And if you're Leicester, why would you be selling? You ain't got a reason to have all that money. You know, you're going to be getting a nice injection from Champions League money next season, most likely anyway. You know, so you haven't really got a good reason to sell James Maddison or Ben Chilwell unless they want to leave, like Harry Maguire did. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But a guy can dream. Yeah, Arbeloa, Danny Carvajal, Marcelo at Real Madrid. Yeah, even Raphael was a good attacking fullback. He was a shit defender, but he was a good attacking fullback. Absolutely, I totally agree with the sentiments on that one. So yeah, absolutely agree with you there. Yeah, the team is unbalanced. Like it is certainly an unbalanced team. We overran in midfield, certainly. Well, yeah, of course Leicester's going to be thinking title push. Absolutely, and they should do. They should be thinking title push because, you know, they're the second best team in the country and Brendan Rodgers has done a brilliant job there. Brendan always got a bad rap. He was brilliant at Swansea before he got the Liverpool job, and I think the Liverpool sacking was always a harsh one. I don't think he deserved to lose his job when he was at Liverpool, in all honesty. So, you know, factoring all that into account, I'm not surprised he's taken Leicester to the heights he has. I always thought he was a great manager. You know? So, again, we'll wait and see how Leicester plays this. But it helps when you've got a good young core, you've got talented players up and down the field, you've bought very smartly with the money you did get from Maguire. And Jamie Vardy is still an elite striker in this country. He's probably going to win the Golden Boot this season. barring a miracle. He's got, what, I think 5 on everybody else right now. He's on fire. James Madison's the best young playmaker in the league. Yuri Tillemans is a guy we absolutely should have got at United but missed out. It says a lot that when Leicester signed Yuri Tillemans for 35 million, everyone on Twitter was like, yeah, that's a brilliant fucking move. They were like, and I was the same. I was like, yeah, balls. That's a fucking great bit of business for Leicester. Like, it's one of those things that as a football fan, you can't help but go, shit, that was actually really smart. Damn. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. How did Boxing Day go at work, Dre? Hi, Kelly. Busy. Very busy. I mean, I took about 600 bets that day. Boxing Day is, for those guys that don't know gambling or don't know horse racing, Boxing Day is the King George chase as well at Kempton. It's traditionally a massive day of horse racing. There was 10 domestic meetings in the UK on Boxing Day. There was 7 in England. There was 3 in Ireland. It's a massive day's worth of racing, and this is despite the fact that our shop on average takes 200 to 300 bets a day. It took 600 on Boxing Day, and this is despite the fact we closed at 6. We closed at 6 on Boxing Day. We closed early, and we was absolutely swamped. It was and I did the majority of that on my own because I didn't have a cashier until 1 p.m. and people do their bets early in the morning because they want the early prices. So that was really goddamn busy. Stupidly busy. Busiest day I've had in the bookies since Gold Cup Day at Cheltenham. Comfortably. Besides the Grand National, which is kind of its own stupidly busy day in its own right. You know, Grand National, Cheltenham Gold Cup, King George is the 3 busiest days of the year for horse racing. Easy. Checking the chat. The way Leicester and Wolves have been ran should have put the front offices out of Arsenal and United out jobs. I completely agree. That's the big problem with Arsenal and United. Their front offices are completely trash. We completely agreed on that one, Miles. Yeah, completely agree. Daylight robbery for Leicester to get Tillemans. Completely agreed. How is work generally? Hard. It's kind of weird because, like, there was... I had a honeymoon period when I joined Paddy Power. I joined in October last year. It started out really well. There was the one minor setback when I got glassed outside my own shop, but I was largely okay. It was a near miss. I mean, I had a couple of bruises and a slightly swollen cheek, but I was okay. It started out really well. We had a really good team and we were middle of the leaderboards and we were doing okay, and it all went to shit in the summer. One of my opening closers went bent in another shop and resigned and was sacked because he was under-ringing and over-ringing bets. And that is staff fraud, and that is a immediate sacking if you're found to be guilty of going bent. Which is what happened with one of my most trusted colleagues. He went to another shop in Brentford and went bent. Now, in case you didn't know what I mean by under-ringing or over-ringing bets real quick, I'll give you a hypothetical scenario. Let's say someone's giving you a bet for £100. Okay? You've checked it, you've taken it, it's fine. It's a £100 bet, nothing wrong with it. You've taken the bet, it's fine. It's on your till as a £100 bet, right? Now, you know the horse or the race they've bet on, right? You've watched the race on your screen. You know that bet is now a loser. So instead of translating the bet straight away, what they'll do is they'll wait for the result, and if they know the bet's a loser, they will change the stake of the bet. So let's say instead of £100, they'll change the stake to £1. Okay? With me so far? Right. So they've changed the bet from £100 to £1. Now, because you've told the till it's a £1 bet, your till should now be £99 up because the till thinks it's a £1 bet, but you've taken £100 of cash for it. So instead of booking your till £99 up, you've put the £100 in your back pocket and walked off. That is underringing bets. It's one of the most common forms of star fraud in the gambling industry, and if you're caught doing it, you are immediately sacked. Somebody went bet doing exactly that in another shop. And it wouldn't have happened in mine because I can spot when people are underringing bets, because I can pull up a list of every bet in a shop that's had its stake changed, and I will check them every day to see in case someone's not gone bent for that reason alone. And if it happens, I will report it because it goes against our shop's profit and loss. But that happened in May. One of my other cashiers left because her visa expired, and may or may not now be cheating with my assistant manager. Weird story in its own right, but they've left the company. I had a new cashier come in. She quit via text message a couple of weeks ago. That was a fucking stressful time. And we had another new starter leave after a month. So there's only 3 of us on our shop team right now. And I had to do a lot of overtime in the autumn and winter. So it was very, very hard in that sense. It's a little bit better now. We've got good cover for people that's coming in the next few weeks to see if we can, find cover and get around these problems. But it's not been easy. It's been very hard. And getting knocked back on the head office gig was a blow as well. So it's been a hard time. Morale's been tough, but you're getting through it, Yeah, you're absolutely right, Miles. It is a criminal offence because it's theft. It is theft. But bookies, generally speaking, do not press charges unless it's an extreme amount of money. Most of the time, police will not get involved unless someone's directly taken money out of the safe, which, of course, would be very easy to do in theory. Just open the safe and take money and clean the place out and walk off, which actually happens more commonly than you think in bookies. But if it's a few £100, they're not going to bother chasing it because, you're going to lose your job and get sacked. And if you're willing to lose your job over a few £100, you're probably either desperate and or stupid anyway. Because if you're going to rob a joint, you're not doing it for a few £100. You're doing it for a few thousand, maybe, to keep you. Because when I was at William Hill, one of my best mates was a guy called Jack, and he did the exact same thing. He closed one night. He took my entire shop's insert out, and it was like $5,000, and he robbed it for $5,000, walked off, didn't hear from him again. Went back and just emptied the safe out. It is a criminal offence. But like I said, the monetary amount has to be quite large to get the police involved. And to be fair, the police are not going to chase somebody up for £100. They will do it for maybe £1,000 or something like that, if you get what I mean. Let's have a look in the chat real quick. I'll give you an example of the time it happened. When I was at William Hill, there was a shop in Southall that's no longer there. It's now closed. One of the guys in there was a friend of a guy I knew quite well. He had not gone to the bank for 5 or 6 days. Again, a bit of bookie jargon here for you, but when you run a bookies, you have a float amount you keep in your shop at all times in case there's a big payout. But you're encouraged to bank. You want as little money in your shop as you can realistically afford to run on, basically. Like at William Hill's back then, you would generally keep a couple of grand in your safe. Anything else on top of that, you would bank every day. So you would go to the post office, or you would go to a bank like a Barclays or whatever your banking provider was, and just deposit it there every day, basically, if there was excess amount. He didn't bank for 4 or 5 days. He had built up the money to the point where there was 15,000 in the shop. And one random night, he emptied the safe. He took all £15,000 out in cash, printed himself a £10,000 quick cash voucher for his online account, locked his shop up, walked out, and tried to get the first plane back to India. The colleague that opened up the next morning quickly realised there was no money in the joint. Obviously called his district manager. They came down quite quickly. They got security on it. Now, to be fair to William Hill, they are a competitor of mine now. Their security department is brilliant. They are the best in the world at it. They have guys that are ex-military, ex-police, ex-special task guys like detectives and whatnot. They have like a lot of former police and military guys in their security department so they can track things like this. And they were able to find the employee's visa, and they basically threatened him, listen, look, if you give us the money back, we won't press charges. And we'll leave it there. Obviously, you'll lose your job, but we've got your visa, and we can get your visa terminated. So if you fly back to India, you will be arrested the moment you touch down in the country. So the jig was up, and basically he had to give the money back, and he lost his job. But he wasn't. He didn't have to face a court trial or anything like that, because William Hill don't bother taking people to court over. If they can avoid it, they won't go to court. All they care about is the money, you know. But so all they want is the money back. If they can get it without pressing charges, they'll do it, because court is time-consuming and expensive. But so before I move on from that, a fun fact: in bookies, 1 in 5 people go bent. It used to be 1 in 12. Apparently, it's now 1 in 5. It is very, very common, and the temptation of all that money around people often is too hard to resist. Because most paddy powers I know, for example, where I work in now, the average shop will have at least 7,000 or 8,000 in it at any given point in time. Trust me. It's pretty crazy. I'm focused on the chat, guys. I'm not watching the United game for now. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Vicky. It would absolutely get caught on CCTV. Yeah, like we have cameras. We always have a camera in front of our safe. That's company policy. When I was at William Hill, that was company policy. It's the same at Paddy Power. There's always a camera directly above the safe, so we know exactly who goes into it and who goes out of it. So, like, I don't know why people do it thinking they won't get caught, because they will, you know. And like I said, it's not. They won't get the police involved over a few hundred, but if it's a few thousand, they will, without a doubt. It depends on the amount. All these bookies care about is their money, rather than pressing charges or, you know, just trying to, you know, be that way. Let's have a look here real quick. Yeah, when I went to the charity shop for 2.5 years, I said I've got nicked at least 4 times. Yeah, it is actually pretty common in retail across the board, Kelly. Totally. Yeah, stuff gets nicked. You can't help it sometimes. If it's the odd 20, 30 quid, then, you know, no one's going to look too much into it. You can get away with that most likely. But if it's like a few 100 or a few thousand, people start noticing very quickly. Let's have a look here real quick. Asking me, is it common for a guy to close a shop on his own? Yes. Very common. When I was at William Hill, they used to have 2,700 shops. I think something like at least 1,500 were single man-in shops, which means they only had one person in them when they closed at 10 p.m. My shop right now is a double man-in shop. You have to legally have 2 people in there to close it. That's what our license dictates. But in bookies, especially outside of London, where it's not particularly busy, and it's a lot more rural or suburban, single man-in closing shops are very common. Very common. One, because it saves the company money, because they don't have to hire as many people or have as many hours on contracts on the board. Pardon me. And because, like I said, well, that is the big reason, really. They can save money. And if a shop has antisocial behaviour in it, they will often put a second person in there. But most of the time, shop's single man. In London, double manning's a lot more common. But a lot of single manning places, especially in areas that might surprise you, are single manned. Like Shepherd's Bush is Paddy Power, that's like 3 miles down the road from me. That single manned. And it's in Shepherd's Bush. Westfield is less than half a mile away. I think it's ridiculous that that's even a thing. I hate it. I hate single manning shops. I don't like that bookies across the board single man for a lot of their places, because legally, a lot of not legally, but most company policies say you can't empty a machine until after 10 p.m. when you've closed. So if somebody wanted to rob a bookies, or, blag it or whatever, they could easily see that the person that's on the shop floor emptying their machines at the end of a night is going to be on their own at 10 p.m. when they close. It's a walking target. And I know people that have been mugged. I know people that have been assaulted outside of their shops. I know people that have been robbed or had their door smashed in, or windows smashed in when they've emptied a place at night. And if you read the news, a couple of years ago, a woman who worked in the Ladbrokes was found dead after being raped in their staff toilet by 2 criminals. Unfortunately, I wish I could talk nicer about my job. No one falls into wanting to work in a bookies. There are some horror stories, unfortunately, but I'm honest about it because that's the best way of going about it. I'm not going to beat around the bush and say just because they sign my checks, I think they're a great place. There's a lot of darkness that comes to my job. You're dealing with vulnerable people. You're dealing with people that are losing money. You're dealing with people that have mental health problems and addictive personalities that make them want to gamble. And it's down to we are the last line of defense when it comes to trying to handle that, and we're on the front line, and that's hard. It is hard, and I wish I could say you're paid well for it, but depends how busy your shop is. Like I run a slightly below average shop, and I make about 25k a year. And if you're in a really busy shop like in Chinatown, you're making 37. It's not a fair fight, but it is what it is. Thanks for the kind words, though, guys. I do appreciate it. I am reading the chat. It was pretty stressful, but, it's not ideal, to say the least. My job is not, my line of work is not for everybody. It's like retail, but it's kind of on steroids. I say that because, in a sense, you're not selling a product to anybody. You're selling a price. You're selling a dream to people when you walk into a bookies. So, when you combine in that and the sort of clientele you get, there is still a big taboo in this country about gambling, and that's not going to change anytime soon. It is what it is. Is living in London a bit of a horror? To a degree, Viandra. To a degree, I mean, look, I've lived in London my whole life. I've lived in West London my entire life. I grew up in Wembley. I moved to Southall / Greenford when I was 10. I wouldn't say it's always been shit, but it depends where you are in London and, to be honest, what your level of privilege is. Unfortunately, the biggest problem with London right now is that the housing market is completely out of whack and unrealistic. I mean, look, I'm 27 years old. I still live with my mum, and I probably will for quite some time. I say that because, like, housing prices in this city are a fucking joke. The average house price in London right now is £500,000. That's the average. And if you want to go to a bank right now and take out a mortgage, the banks are going to ask you for 10% up front. What 27-year-old is walking around with 50 grand on them? Because in this market, everything is so expensive, it's impossible to save. And you're not saving £50,000 in cash unless you're making 100k a year. And you're not making 100k a year coming out of college or coming out of university with a degree. People forget, my degree is in broadcast journalism. Where the hell am I making that sort of money? Half of these guys want me to work for free. Work for the exposure. But no one can get their foot on the ladder for that very reason. You know, house prices are a joke. The economy is busted. Housing prices is busted. You never really want to rent because renting is stupid. You get nothing out of it in the end, and you're just giving your money to a landlord. You don't really want to do that either. So I might as well just stay here. I give my mum $315 a month in board, and it's dirt cheap. And like in the grand scheme of things, and of course, I don't have to worry about bills, and we can actually put money back into the house in that sense. But if I was out there, I'd be boned. And I'm on good money. I'm on the UK average, more or less. 80% of my money would go into bills if I lived in an actual, like, one-bedroom flat in London somewhere. It's not sustainable. The bubble will burst. It's why Adam Johnson, who's a good mate of mine, you know from the podcast and whatnot, it's why he still lives with his parents himself, and he lives in Dartford. He lives just outside of London. He's half an hour away on the train. He lives like right next to Brands Hatch. Like he's 10 minutes away from Brands Hatch racetrack. And that's probably what most people are going to do. They're either going to move to the country, move to a city that's cheaper, like a Birmingham or a Manchester, or live on the outskirts of London because it's a million times cheaper than working in than living in the working class areas, which are just stupidly expensive. It's why when I was dating my ex, there was a possibility that maybe in 2 or 3 years' time I would move up to Nottingham, because one, it's a lot cheaper up there. I've got family up in Nottingham. And hell, it's your girlfriend. Of course, you want to live together. And I was starting to save money. I was starting to put the wheels in place for a move. Obviously, now that's not going to happen. But I'm still saving. Who knows what might happen down the road? But it's not exactly what you call sustainable. You know, sometimes it be like that. Yeah, you're right, Vic. You're not getting 100 grand in the bank unless you're an athlete or like there's got to be some sort of like. There's no good way of making 100k these days. Like you're only doing that if you're like you're spawn. You got to be a footballer or some sort of professional athlete, or picked up a shit ton of inheritance, which is just really just passing on wealth from one family to the next. You know, you've already made it in that sense, or your family's already made it for you, you know. If you want to know how much a struggle that can be, a good friend of ours, Hazel Southall, used to live on a boat because it was a million times cheaper than living in an actual house. There's a fun fact there for you. Flooding, yeah, that's a thing, Kelly. Hey, Dre, fuck capitalism. Hey, Brennan, good to see you, buddy. Yeah, you're pretty much right on that one. Yeah, like I said, if you're renting, you're paying off somebody else's mortgage. That's exactly it. And the problem with moving out of London is if you work here, the travel cost is stupid. Yeah, it's expensive. When I used to work for William Hill, one of the most brilliant things, genuinely, about working for them, and look, I don't want to trash my former employer totally. Like, there was some good parts of working for William Hill, even if the money was shit. I will say this. They gave you an Oyster card, where if they took £50 a month out of your salary, but it was an Oyster card where you could travel anywhere in London for free. I saved hundreds of pounds a year due to that Oyster card, because I worked out if you were getting 2 buses a day to travel into work on a 5-day contract, it more than paid for itself. And that doesn't include trains, it doesn't include buses, it doesn't include any other travel you would have from a social standpoint or whatever. Like, it was £50 a month, and your travel was paid for the month. It was a fucking steal. It's the one thing I don't like about working for Paddy Power now, is that they don't have that scheme anymore. They used to have it, but they got rid of it before I joined the company. I would die to have that back. Dear God. Like I said, I'm not joking. That Oyster saved me hundreds of pounds a year. Comfortably. Evander's saying, how's Johnson doing? Hope he's doing okay compared to previous years. Yeah, man, like, I still speak to Johnson semi-regularly. He's still in our Discord server. He's, like, again, he's still a good friend. We don't talk as much as we used to. We're often just doing our own things. Johnson's a very free spirit in that sense. He's one of those guys that, because he's got Aspies like I do, it affects us differently. Johnson is like a bit like I don't mean this to insult him. He's a bit like a lost puppy. He likes doing 115 different projects at once and trying to figure out what he really wants to do. He's now become, a vlog on his channel now, talking about trains and the underground and obscure parts of the railways and the networks and whatnot. He, like me, we caught up for the first time in a while. The other day, because Zoe came down, Zoe Hamilton from the show, who you know, came down to London to visit from Glasgow with her, Amy, a good friend of ours. It was me, her, Hazel, me, and Johnson. We were all together in central London, and we just chilled out for a bit. Went to Waterstones, got something to eat, went to the pub, and just hung out for the day. And it was great, and we caught up there. I'd like to think he's doing okay. He struggles sometimes with his anxiety, and that's natural. But I'd like to think he's doing all right. Yeah, look forward to that at the end, Vic. Just checking my Twitter real quick. Nothing in the United game. No surprises there. Peter Wright 3-1 up in the darts. No surprises there. Yeah, if you make 50k and are under 30, it's a 99% guarantee you were born into massive wealth. Yeah, probably. Look, if there's a £50,000 a year job out there, they're not giving it to people that are coming straight out of university. They will want 10 years experience out of the box. And that's just it. When I was growing up, 10, 15 years ago, you had the blue chip companies that were taking on young people coming straight out of university. They wanted to mold them into their company. They were looking and thinking for 10 years down the road. Now they're thinking, shit, we need to cut as much payroll as possible, and we're just going to hire all these guys that have got the 10 years experience already. They're going to cut out the middleman, because they're saving money on training, they're saving money on recruitment, and they're now thinking, can we get 5 people to do this job where 10 people used to do it? They ain't got time to be training people that are our age. They're going to be keeping in like the 40-year-old that's been around the block for 10 years already, when it was easier to get a job. You'll notice this. If you ever walk around the bookies, like I do in my industry, you'll notice a lot of young people work in betting shops. And the reason why that is because bookies are always looking for bodies. And it's a great part-time job, and you'll never go hungry. You don't have to pay them very well. And it's the only real part of the retail industry where you can get people in on a grassroots level. It's a great part-time gig. A lot of people will do it at the same time as going to university and whatnot. A lot of young people work in bookies because you don't need experience to do it. They train you on the job. Like, I started in the gambling industry when I was 23, and like, I was actually older than a lot of people that do it. And the amount of people I met that were people that were studying or people that were young, it happened all the time. I'm now one of the veterans of the game. I've been in the industry nearly 4 years now, and I'm 27. And I'm now seeing people that are coming in who are like 19, 20, who used to work at places like TGI Fridays. You know, guys that have got like service experience or, you know, worked in a pub. It's not a million miles away, you know. So, you know, you get it in that sense. Yeah, I'm glad you got something, Brendan. I'm glad it's actually paid work rather than just exposure, certainly. You know, I know it's only part-time money, but at least it's something. You know, 10 hours, even at minimum wage, is not completely trash. I did 5 years at Matalan before I even started at William Hill, before I went to Paddy Power, and I was making £6 an hour. In fact, I was making £5 an hour before I turned 18. Or actually, no. The minimum wage at the time when I was working at Matalan went up when I turned 21. It became $6.26 an hour. And every company needs to be on a living wage. Every company should be paying people £10 an hour minimum. The minimum wage is a joke in this country. It needs to be at least £10 an hour. Like, minimum. Yeah, I totally get what you mean, Brennan. I mean, look, I would still love to work in motorsport media full time, but I've tried 4 times with places like ESPN UK, which are owned by Disney, and I've tried with Crash.net. I didn't get that job there. You know, I tried applying for Dorna. I was willing to move to Spain, you know, to work for them. I tried applying to work at Dorna a year before Lewis got the gig over there working social media. And, you know, I've more or less given up on that dream because the industry isn't built for people like us. It just isn't. It's built for the guys that are in the paddock, that have mates, that know what they're doing. People like Luke Smith, people like Hazel Southwell, they're the exception. They're not the rule. And I love those two. Those two are the best in the business. Luke is brilliant. Hazel, I kiss Hazel's feet from a journalistic standpoint. She's the best Formula E journo on the planet. A great friend and a tremendous writer, and she's given us free stuff at M101 before that I've offered her money and she's not taken it because she believes that what we do is important from a coverage standpoint. But the amount of motorsport media jobs full time that are openly available every year, you can probably count on one hand, and you'd probably have fingers left over. It's like 2 a year. It's why people deep down kind of knew that the Autosport Academy was kind of a joke, because it had 70 people on there getting paid they're getting paid per word count, and there was like 2 full-time jobs a year that would come out from the end of it, and there's 70 of you in the academy. What do you think's going to happen? You know, like, I'm very, very lucky that I've got friends in those places. Like, the fact that Hazel even thinks I'm a decent writer is a miracle, because her piece she wrote about being in Riyadh for Formula E was the best piece of motorsport journalism I've read all year, and the best for several years. Like I've said it before, I kiss Hazel's feet from a journalistic standpoint. She's fucking brilliant at what she does. Luke Smith is brilliant at what he does, and he's been doing it since he was 19. I think he's still 2 years younger than me, Luke, and he goes to every paddock and gets brilliant work and does an exceptional job. He really, really does. And he's the walking proof that it is possible, and that's great. And I'm delighted for him, but that's not the norm. I'll be the first guy to tell you, that's not the industry. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, you know? And it's... yeah. It's going to be hard, you know, and I will keep plugging away at it. I hope that one day someone notices what we've done at M101 and, you know, the dream opportunity comes. You know, I would love nothing more to do that. And, you know, but I also I'm realistic to know that that is probably a pipe dream, especially when I can't dedicate as much time to it as I would like, you know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Luke's 2 years younger than me. I know he's younger than me. I don't know his date of birth. I know his birthday's in May because he's a mate, but I'm pretty darn sure he's 2 years younger than me. I know he's younger than me because I remember he told me himself, and I was like, "What? Really?" I was like, "Shit, you got to be kidding me!" Just like getting into motorsport from a car standpoint, you've got to know people. It's all like, and that could apply to most decent jobs out there these days. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. You need people to get you in through the front door. You need people, you need contacts, you need opportunities, you need to network. And that is the biggest game changer in the 2010s. You've got to work smart rather than working hard. And, you know, that shit ain't normal in that sense. But we're all juggling in that sense, and like we love this game to the point where we want to try and get jobs in it. And because who wouldn't want? Because when you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like work. But at the same time, we also are well aware of the realities of it, and that can often be hard and very sobering as a thought to come through. You know, it's not about. Like, when I was growing up and when I got my degree, I got a 2-1 in broadcast journalism. You know, I had a good-ass degree. I did damn well at university. You know, and I was trained in a lot of different facets of the media game. Podcasting, broadcasting, law in journalism, you know, media, PR, HR, you know, HTML, like learning how to build websites, learning how to video edit, learning how to podcast. It was very jack of all trades. I came out with a 2-1 degree and there was nothing for me. I did nothing but bury my head in the sand for 6 months after I got my degree, and there was nothing. My mum was like, "Dre, don't worry about the rent for now. Go find a job." And then 6 months passed, and I was like, "Okay, Dre, you need to get something." And I applied for William Hill, and I got lucky. The first job I applied for, I got. Again, I'm not normally this lucky. But the game is rigged in that sense. You know, it is absolutely rigged. And, you know, only a certain set of people are going to make it. And more often than not, it's just off. A lot of it is luck. Absolutely is luck. Yeah, man, Luke's our age. I know people are shocked by this. Hazel's 32. Hazel's a fair bit older than me. And most of us that are still tuning in and watching this now. But Luke is a fair amount older. Also, Luke's massively younger. Yeah, Luke's 24. There you go. Alex doubled down on what I said. I knew I had a couple of years on him in that sense. Man was out here in F1 paddocks when he was 20. His nuts had barely dropped. Yeah, I get you, Kev. Totally like the music industry. Any of those lucrative sort of industries work in pretty much exactly the same way. Any niche market. I know music isn't really niche, but it's niche to get into, in that sense. Did I go to City of London Uni, Dre? I'm asking because the dude that used to run their journalism programs came to my uni in Ireland and fixed that problems, lol. No, I went to the University of West London, formerly known as Thames Valley University, TVU. It's literally a 2-minute walk out of Ealing Broadway. It's like a 10-minute walk past Ealing Broadway Underground station. So, again, I didn't do the proper uni experience. I didn't leave London because I thought, what's the point? It's too expensive. And to be fair, my A levels kind of sucked, so I had to stay in the shit end of West London. And yeah, like I said, Thames Valley was not a great university. It was only great at two areas. It was specialised. They specialised in catering. So if you wanted to be a chef or a cook, great uni. And if you wanted to be a midwife, it was a great uni. It had the best rate in the country for turning people into midwives. So, if you're into that sort of thing, great uni. Bit shit for everything else. The lecturers are fantastic, though. I'm still good friends with two of them on Facebook, like Pam Myers and Sue Bowerman. Shout out to them. Love them to pieces. Amazing people. Amazing lecturers. Amazing journalists. Love them to death. I would not be the M101 guy I am now if it wasn't for them. But, yeah, like you said, it's all networking. Like I said, I've applied all sorts of places when it comes to motorsport jobs. Like I said, I've tried. ESPN had an associate editor role open a couple of years in a row. Tried to apply for it, failed, and it was even worse when I found out that a couple of years ago Hazel had applied for the same role that I did, and I was like, well, that's me not getting it then. I was like, shit. I knew I was boned from the start on that one. So that sucked. I tried getting in with BT Sport when they first started getting MotoGP coverage. They were taking runners and assistants and journalists on the side for BT Sport. Didn't get in with them, which was a shame. Applied, nothing happened. Tried Dorna, nothing. But I've tried, and nothing's fallen my way. I mean, there is always going to be someone more experienced and a better fit for the role than me. I'm very modern in how I've gone about creating M101, and people don't like that. People want hard numbers. People want pages and pages of journalism. They want written experience. They want magazine work. And how do you get your foot in the door doing that? It's impossible when you're 27. It's nearly impossible. But hey, it is one of them things. I'll do another maybe 10, 15 minutes, guys, and then we'll call it a night, and I'll be around on Twitter and whatnot. But, we'll see how we go. But, yeah. Not a big hip-hop guy, random guy. Sorry about that. Where will Nico Hulkenberg go? Back home for a sabbatical. I don't think Hulkenberg is all that fussed if he doesn't race or not. Hulkenberg looks like exactly the sort of guy that looks like... When he left F1 at the end of this season, he looked content. He looked content. He didn't look phased. He didn't look worried about getting another job or anything like that. He looked like a man that was absolutely fine with it. It's why there probably wasn't a big fanfare or upset feeling about him leaving, because he had a good career. He was a very, very good driver that was just unfortunately, he never really had a big opportunity with a big team. He was on the brink 2 or 3 times and getting a top tier seat, but he was never the number one option. And that, I think, ultimately did him in the long run, especially when Daniel Ricciardo joined him at Renault, and then Renault was like, oh, we need a Frenchman. Got to get back in favour with the shareholders after the whole our CEO was corrupt thing. So Hulkenberg was sacrificed, even though he actually did a very good job of leading the Renault team when he was there, when they, for some reason, gave Kevin Magnussen and Jolyon Palmer jobs. Palmer being the aforementioned, shit stick in that sense. But Hulkenberg looked like he was totally at peace with it, and I'm sure he'll be fine. He looks like the sort of guy that's probably got money in premium bonds or something. He'll be fine. Yeah, a lot like JB in 2016, Vic. JB was content because JB always had other work coming. You know? Like, JB, clearly he wanted to go to Japan. He always had the Super GT stuff lined up. He clearly wasn't done with motorsport. He had great ties with Honda. Jensen always had another outlet. And I think Jensen wanted to try other things anyway. And if Hulkenberg wants to keep staying in motorsport, I'm sure there's series like DTM or IMSA that would take him. Or something in sports cars. I'm dead certain of that, especially given he is a Le Mans winner. But I don't think he'll race again for a little while, at least for a year. I think Hulkenberg's surprisingly content with the whole thing. I really do. Oh yeah, that was hilarious when he was the last night in Abu Dhabi when he was blatantly pissed drunk at the end of his car retired early. He was in the paddock. He was mingling with I remember because Channel 4 had F1. I was first year Channel 4 had F1. And he was in the back with, I think it was Karun Chanok and Mark Webber, and he was pissed drunk, and he didn't give a shit. It was hilarious. And he was on Ted's notebook trying to take over. That was so funny. JB was totally at peace with retiring from F1. Well, so he thought anyway. Yeah, Sitzel wasn't a bad driver. Like another guy that was on that similar sort of level. Wow, Jeffrey just one's come back from 3-1 down to 3-0 down to 3-3 in the darts. Shit. Yeah, Sitzel's another guy on the same level. He should have had a podium. I remember Monaco. I think it was 2009. Where Kimi Räikkönen took him out. And I remember because James Allen on the commentary was like, sometimes sport is so cruel. And I remember him missing out on that one. That sucked. I don't know if you've read JB's autobiography or not, but he says in his head he'd want to try other motorsports because his dad died. Well, since his dad died, because it felt like a piece of his love for F1 went with his dad. Wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thanks for that, Vic. I've not actually read JB's autobiography. I do want to read more motorsport books as well in 2020, certainly. But I know JB's autobiography was a good one, and I didn't realise that a part of his love for the sport went when his dad died. Obviously, losing John was awful. You know, John was a popular figure in the paddock and a great guy, which is a real shame. Yeah, 2008. Thanks for the correction on the years, guys. Appreciate that. I thought it was either 08 or 09. I think it was 08. Pretty sure he was running third or fourth that time. And then he was just ploughed into the back by Kimi Räikkönen, and that was it. No, I totally hear you here, man. Like, Channel 4's early team was so good. Like, Steve Jones was a surprisingly great anchor. They had no problem quashing some of the older stereotypes about F1. Early Webber was great, you know. Eddie Jordan was fun in small doses, you know. Edwards and Coulthard in the commentary box. It was like an all-star team of like the old BBC guys, but like with Steve Jones where Jake Humphrey was, like a good anchor, but without Humphrey being an arrogant arsehole once he left F1. Basically. No, that early Channel 4 team was great. Totally agree. Am I doing London Formula E? Might do. I didn't get tickets when they dropped, to be honest, because at the time I couldn't afford it. And Zoe was like, Dre, I'll loan you the money, like go buy a ticket, and I didn't. I might just hang around the venue and meet up with you guys afterwards or something, or before or something like that. Because I know a lot of guys are doing it this year. Yes, United have scored. Woo! But I know a lot of guys are doing Autosport this year, so I'll keep an eye on that. Sorry, not Autosport, sorry. Doing London Formula E. We'll see, basically. Why is it the Channel 4 F1 rarely broadcasts F1 nowadays? Because their broadcasts are not live. Viandra. Until this year, they would own, like, last year was the last year they had 10 live weekends a year. They don't have any live races anymore. They are all now pre-taped to be broadcast later on. The only race they'll get live now is the British Grand Prix, because it's government law that the British Grand Prix has to be on free-to-air television. Because that's why Sky, for example, will put it on Sky One, a channel that I think is on free-to-air. But yes, but yeah, basically, I might do Formula E, and I know people have asked me about Also Sport. I will be there on Sunday, most likely. I've got to buy tickets for it still, or train tickets for it, but I did get my media application through, so I will be there for it. Just got to get there on Sunday, basically. I think a good mate of mine, Grace, is taking me out for a curry afterwards, which would be nice. But yep, we're back. Yeah, sorry about that. Internet again had a little hiccup. But I was going to say, is like, look, I've said it before. What's the way of me saying this? Yeah, you don't get into F1 for nothing. You've got a couple of £1 million of funding off sponsors or rich parents or some other outside funding to get into F1. Not everyone is Mitch Evans where they can get in for nothing, or just knowing Mark Webber. DC preaching about hard work. Yeah, of course there's an element of hard work in it, but don't pretend like you didn't get a couple of £1 million worth of funding on the back door to get in. Like who are you kidding? Yeah, I also completely agree. It's Bernie. Bernie did not know what he was getting himself into when he was messing with the rights. He just looked at Sky's big contract and thought, let me take Sky on. Because Bernie signed over everything over to Sky, including the video archive and the library, because they never thought that the sport would take off from a digital standpoint. And Sky's deal was shit, and I don't think what Bernie realises that, yes, while Sky will pay for the monopoly on F1, it means there'll be a lot less people watching the sport in the long run. You're gonna shrink in terms of viewership, and you've stuck it behind a £30 a month paywall. So, good luck with that. Last call for questions, you guys. Last call. I'll give another 5 minutes or so. So I am hungry and I want to order some pizza. Top 5 F1's favorite F1 seasons: 2012, 2010. I did enjoy 2009 for what it's worth. 2016, and I think 2003 was pretty great as well, actually. So I'll probably say those ones would be. Let's just double checking the chat one more time. No pineapple. For example, I know people are shocked about the whole Bernie thing and signing the digital rights away. That is exactly why we will never have F1 live access in the UK, because they signed over the digital rights to Sky. It's why the video library and the archive is available to it's available to everyone outside of the UK. But Bernie signed that deal with the UK. He signed over everything. He signed over the TV, he signed over the digital, he signed over the whole lot, basically. Because like I said, Bernie did not think that the sport would blow up online. He had no perception over how big the internet would end up being. Even in 2012, when he signed the Sky Sports deal, he didn't know just how big digital was going to be in the future. And that's why Sky now dictate the terms and have the complete monopoly on F1 in this country. Simple as that. No, no tuna on the pizza either. What sort of heathen do you take me for fuck's sake? This is what we're not about to do. But yes, I am very hungry. So. Let's have a look quick. Yeah, Bernie should have retired in 05. I completely agree. Bernie should have sold up in 05 when the sport was just coming into a new era. Like 2005, that sort of time was when you had new stars coming in. Schumacher wasn't the dominant guy anymore. Alonso was a big deal. Raikkonen was a big deal. You know, you had other young, talented drivers come up through the ranks. By the time we got to 07 and 08, you had Robert Kubica, Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton. You know, 2010 you had Hulkenberg. It was that 05 to 10 era is what the sport missed a big opportunity with, as far as I'm concerned. Do you think the FOM will insist that F1 isn't exclusive to Sky, so F1 TV can be available in the UK when the rights are negotiated, or are we stuck with paywall Sky? I think we're stuck with paywall Sky. Sky are not going to wrestle that away. Like, now Sky's got it. Like, Sky's got the leverage because they can just say, well, you know what, we don't want F1 anymore. Sell to someone else, basically. They've probably got FOM over a barrel with that now because they, like, and Vic's right. The viewership is nowhere near what it was. Like, they were getting 5-6 million when they were on free-to-air in the UK, and they're now getting less than 1 million every race on Sky. It's the same with BT Sport and MotoGP, because MotoGP used to be on BBC Two every Sunday. They were getting over 1 million viewers a race in the UK back then. They're getting less than 200,000 a race on BT Sport. But again, paywall. They want that guaranteed money, you know? F1 will just say, you know what, we'll get our money from all these other markets. I don't think FOM would make as much if they got rid of Sky's digital rights and started making their own money on the side of F1 Access. Would there be enough willing, like they're not going to compete against themselves in that sense, you know? Because people that are paying Sky customers, how many would stop paying for Sky Sports just to get F1 Access instead? You know, I'm not sure on that one. Like, I know Sky are downsizing in general, but they're going to try and monopolise what they can. I know they've coughed up a lot. They coughed up the WWE because that's going to BT Sport next year. They've coughed up Spanish football because that's now on Premier Sports and ITV4 every once in a while and whatnot. And you know, that's gone up in the air. They tried to get like Italian Cup games and Dutch Cup games, and that didn't work. Sky are coughing up franchises left, right, and centre. You know, they are slowly putting more. I forgot to mention they coughed up the tennis as well. Besides Wimbledon, all the tennis is now, I think, on BT Sport as well. Besides Wimbledon, obviously, which has to be free to wear in the country as legal law. You know. So, live sport is the last bastion of TV. So, certain companies are going to try and focus really hard on what they can keep, basically. Again, like you said, Miles, it depends. Amazon could be the big game changer. It depends on how much risk Amazon want to take to see whether they can take a bigger share of the market or anything like that. You know, we'll have to wait and see. The rights are up again in 2023. But yeah, you know, we shall see. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here because, like I said, I'm hungry. The guy needs a pizza, and no tuna or pineapple will be involved on it. I just want to say again to all you guys, hope you had a lovely Christmas. Thank you guys all for watching along. If I don't talk to you guys in the meantime, have a wonderful new year. I wish you guys all the very best for 2020. I'll be thrashing out plans in the next couple of weeks, thinking about the future of the show. what we can do to improve, because I'll be real with you, 2019 was a good year. It was not a great year, and I want to try and focus in harder on us for new content and what we can do and seeing where we can improve. I'll be thinking hard about that going forward. I'll be talking with the boys and seeing what we can do about that, and when that happens, I will let you guys know. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in tonight. You guys have been fantastic. Really enjoyed it. You guys have been great. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Of course, I'll be on social media as always. You can follow me on Twitter at Harrison101HD if you haven't already. There's my username. It's in the chat now in case you haven't. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all for tuning in. Much appreciated. And I will talk to you guys real soon. Thank you very much for watching. And hopefully I'll be doing this a lot more often down the road. So thank you all so much, guys. Have a good one. Take care. And I'll see you guys next time. Sayonara and a Happy New Year.